We were speaking last time about how the entire Mitzvah Emunah includes with it Moshiach. Based on the Smak, the Sefer Mitzvahs Katanas, it's not enough just to know that God is the creator, sustainer of the world. It's also to know that God has a plan for all of humanity, and we're all going in a very good place. The better we use our free will, the better it's going to be. And therefore it's a very, very important thing that part of the mitzvah of knowing God's existence is that knowing that God has a plan for humanity. Moshiach. That we're going to come to a great redemption. We spoke about this last time. That Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Etzesichem Eretz Mitzrayim. I am the Lord your God. That took you out of Egypt. I took you out of exile in the past. And I will do it again at the end of this long exile. So we see that it's one journey, one destiny that we're all on. So the story that I promised Tuvia that I would say is one of the big tzaddikim is that they were traveling across Europe and they got to a spot where there was an inn, an achsanya, a kretschmer. And they got to the inn and one of the tzaddikim were staying in one of these rooms. And they were in the room and it had one of these like clocks, like the old style clocks, the ones that make the dong every hour or something, grandfather clocks. So the next morning, the tzaddik went to the innkeeper and he said, what's with this clock? There's something special with this clock. Now the general mitzias is that these clocks are not always uplifting, because they make you remember that another hour's gone by. You know, what'd you do with your life? Another hour's gone by, you hear the dong again. They can have a certain energy to these types of clocks that they don't take you in the best direction. Because you feel like, what did I really do? Another hour went by, another month, another year. What have I become? So the innkeeper said, let me tell you, there was one time that the children of the Chayzim Lublin. I went to his kever in Lublin, in Poland. It's very special there. It's a big or to go there to the Chayza, the great seer of Lublin. Maybe we'll do a trip there one time. It's very special there in Lublin. To go to Chachmei Lublin, the yeshiva that's still standing, even though the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, went and they tried to destroy it, but it's still standing. It's amazing. It's a hotel now, and you can stay there. You can go to the base medrash. Just to get into Lublin, to the yeshiva, you needed to know 200 daf bal peh. Gemara Rashi Taisus.
Just like.
That's right, bal peh. And therefore they didn't need many svarim. Because if you needed something from Baba Kama, you just say, hey, Baba Kama, come over here. What's going on? Daf peh tes, Amar Aleph, the Taisus there. And if you needed something from Sukkah, you say, hey Sukkah, what's pshat in that Tosfos? So that was Chachma Lublin, and very, very special and amazing. So the Chayzim Lublin, who lived in Lublin, so his kids, the innkeeper said, we're back inside the story, the innkeeper said that there was a time that the children of the Chayzim Lublin stayed at the inn, and they didn't have enough money to pay, but they said that they would give a collateral, basically as a payment for the stay. And what they gave was this clock, and this grandfather clock was the clock that belonged to the Chayzim Lublin, and this is the clock that's in your room. So the tzaddik explained why he felt something. He said, because, like we just mentioned, usually a grandfather clock makes you a little bit down. But the Chayzim Lublin had this clock, and every single time it would make a dong, he would think we're 1 hour closer to Mashiach. We're another hour closer to Mashiach. We're another hour closer to Mashiach. We're getting closer and closer. So every single time that it would dong, he'd get more excited. It has to be coming. We're mamish, it's coming. And the tzaddik said, now I understand why I couldn't sleep the whole night, is I was around this clock. And you see one thing by the tzaddikim, is even the inanimate objects of tzaddikim take on the energy of the tzaddikim. If you learn the Ishbitzer Rebbe and other tzaddikim, they speak about this a lot. This idea that even the inanimate objects of great people And God forbid, the opposite, evil people, they take on the energy of those people, and that's why you want to have things that belong to holy people. If you can get the Baal Shem Tov's Kiddush cup, you're in good shape. I did a bris recently, and they brought Rav Chaim Kanievsky's Kiddush cup that he used for many, many years. Someone just brought it out. They're like, oh, maybe we'll use this cup. So I was like, it looks nice. Whose is it? They're like, it was Rav Chaim's. I was like, yes, I think we'll use that one, actually. I think that's the right one to use. Beautiful, gold.
So right
gold.
His tefillin's actually up for auction right now.
Rav Chaim's tefillin?
Yeah.
It's probably going to get millions and millions of dollars.
It's less than 10,000. It's like 5,000 something right now.
There's no way it's going to sell for that. I'm sure it's many days until the end of the auction.
Mordecai brought it to Rabbi Berg to see if the yeshiva could buy and put in display in the basement.
For that amount of money, maybe we should get it. That's not so much. That's a Reb Chaim's tefillin, I'm saying. That's a very big thing, that you want to be connected to items that tzaddikim used. If you can get things, I'm saying these are things that are passed down in the Masorah, because tzaddikim, they put so much energy and they awakened God consciousness everywhere, that even the inanimate things, this is all filled with God energy, because there's nothing but Hashem, which is all part of the Yud Gimel Ikarim. So they just woke up the God energy and everything. What?
It's kind of like idol worship. It's like
What do you mean? Idol worship?
It's physical, materialistic.
I'm not praying to it, God forbid.
You're like, I don't know, it just seems a bit, in my books at least. I don't know.
God forbid you're not praying to it. God forbid not, it's not God, chas v'shalom. These are items that it's like a mitzvah item that was used by a special person takes on a certain luminescence. It shines. It's different.
And that stays forever?
It stays.
Or like however often it does, it makes it like a...
It stays. These are great secrets. You have to speak to, Ichimara about like how long it stays and how long, and what happens if God forbid gets into the wrong hands. Could they remove that? Can they conceal the light? Now we're like in the world of light and darkness and the higher worlds. These are high topics. But the idea being is that you want to have things that were around great people, because they, the shofar, if you had the Baal Shem Tov shofar, you'd probably want to blow that shofar. If you had Reb Chaim's tefillin, those are tefillin that have been activated, that have been so much God consciousness around that item, especially what we're talking about. The tefillin is all about a constant reminder of the truths of leaving Mitzrayim, which are the 13 principles of our core belief. So even the grandfather clock of the Chayzeh was shining with this, we're getting closer to Mashiach, we're getting closer. Right? We see this also in the Gemara, that for Pinchas ben Yair, his donkey wouldn't work on Shabbos. It wouldn't budge. Because it was around someone that was such a person of Shabbos that the donkey's like, I'm not working. It's Shabbos. That's what I mean. Is that even the donkey, it's not Avodah Zarah, the donkey is just luminescent. It's shining from being around. And the Gemara talks about these things. If dogs, God forbid, are too violent, it could be that the owner has something off. The things around you take on your energy. That's the idea. They pick up on it. It's imprinted in the things around us. So you want to send out positive consciousness. So when you daven, also when you daven in shul, it says you should daven in the same place in shul all the time. Makom kavua. And then, why? Because it says it opens up like pipelines of bracha. Like spiritual blessing to come down. So, if you go and stand in a place that's somebody holy, when I was in Mezhbich, by where the Baal Shem Tov shul was, and I was standing there, and I was thinking the Baal Shem Tov, the tefillahs that he prayed right here, when Rabbi Nachman was born and lived. This is you feel there's something different here. There's something happening here. So it's very good things. Whereas, God forbid, going to a place of a lot of destruction and evil, there's something bad there. It's a bad thing. Now, sometimes you go back to a place where bad things happen to help fix it, to go say Tehillim there, to go say Mishnayos for people that were killed there. But it means that something needs fixing. So this grandfather clock did not need fixing. This grandfather clock was saying the message. And sometimes you have to be on a high level to feel it. Somebody gave me just to feel, just to hold for a second, the tefillin case of the Bnei Yisachar. The Bnei Yisachar's tefillin case, I felt it was very special. This is the Bnei Yisachar's tefillin case. We're talking to someone with great Ruach HaKodesh, like not quite prophecy, but very up there. And you felt something special here. And therefore, yes, if you can get Reb Chaim's tefillin for $10,000, that's a deal, I think. You can get regular tefillin for $10,000. It's Reb Chaim's tefillin. That's a steal. We're now going to add another layer to this whole story. This is the layer that we're putting in the context that the mitzvah, everything we're learning here, that the 13 core principles of the Jewish people are found all in Yetzias Mitzrayim, and the narrative of Yetzias Mitzrayim. We went through where they're all found. There's something unique, is that we mention Yetzias Mitzrayim every single day. How many times a day? 2 times. Where do we mention Yetzias Mitzrayim? In which mitzvah? Which other mitzvah? In Shema. In Shema, we mention remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim. And every time I want you to think of remember Yetzias Mitzrayim, it's very important. I want you to put in your download, in your consciousness, your neuroplasticity, Tovia, that I want to move that plasticity around. I want it always now to be identified and associated, with the 13 principles. The Yud Gimel Ikarim. So whenever you think of Yetzias Mitzrayim, you should think of Yud Gimel Ikarim. So now the question is, why do we have the Yud Gimel Ikarim in Shema? And so much so, there seems to be an integration of the Yud Gimel Ikarim in Shema, so much so, and this is the way you have to learn Rambams, that when the Rambam is mentioning the mitzvah of remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim, he doesn't mention it as its own mitzvah. He mentions it within the mitzvah of Shema. You got that? Which makes it that there's something about the Yud Gimel Ikarim which are like woven into Shema, that are part and parcel with saying Shema. It has to be, because the Rambam's putting it not as a separate thing, but he's telling us about Yetzias Mitzrayim in Shema. Okay? So here's the words of the Rambam. Afal pi she'ein mitzvahs tzitzis neheges balayla, even though we don't have a mitzvah of wearing tzitzis at night, even though there's a mitzvah of keeping yourself, of al pi Kabbalah to wear it. Karen Oisa balayla, we still say the parsha of Shema at night, speaking about saying Kriyat Shema. Why? Mipnei sheyesh ba zichroin Yetzias Mitzrayim. Because we talk about leaving Mitzrayim. And therefore, really, it's not about the tzitzis, it's about the leaving Mitzrayim. The mitzvah, and now he goes into it. Lahazkir Yetzias Mitzrayim b'yoyim v'layla. We have a mitzvah to remember. And what does Yetzias Mitzrayim mean? Yud Gimel Ikarim. It's synonymous now, Yud Gimel Ikarim. Shenemar laman tizkor es yoyim tzeischa meretz Mitzrayim kol yemei chayecha. All the days of your life, all the days, right? L'rabos esalelos, like the Haggadah. Yimos Moshiach, okay? Bringing back Passover Seder stuff. The Kriyas Shalosh Parshias, very important. Reading all the 3 paragraphs, Ve'ahavta, Ve'haya, and Ve'yedaber. Elu al Seder Zehaya Hanikris Kriyat Shema. This is all called Kriyat Shema. All these 3 parshas is called reading Kriyat Shema. So what do we see? Number 1, that the Rambam sees that all 3 parshas are deraisa. That the mitzvah deraisa is all 3 parshas. But there's something else. What is the other mitzvah we have during the year of doing something related to Yetzias Mitzrayim?
Pesach.
Pesach. Is that called Zecher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim? What do we do on Passover night? A once-a-year download. Because seemingly, like, what are we doing? We have Zecher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim. If it's just about remembering that we love Mitzrayim, we do that Pamayim B'chol Yom. We have it 2 times a day. Kriyat Shema. If you say all 3 paragraphs. Tefillin. Kiddush, Shabbos, Pidyon Ben.
What's the after about giving it to your kids, though, no?
Vigadla bincha. So I could tell them every day. What's different? So what's different about is it's called not Zecher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's called Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. Sipur is a much longer form story. That's why you spend the whole night getting involved. Mamish. The whole night. Adaloi Sashachar. Mamish. The whole night we're just saying over. And kol ha-marbe, harazeh meshubach. The more that you're marbe b'sipur yitzias Mitzrayim, to say it over, harazeh meshubach. Every single one of the days of the year is just a zecher. And many times throughout the day, we have a zecher. We're going through the zecher many times a day. There's a zecher yitzias Mitzrayim. When it comes to Leil HaSeder, it's sipur yitzias Mitzrayim. So look what Rav Moshe Chaim says. Beautiful. What's the difference between what we do on Leil HaSeder to what we do every single day, many times a day, of Zecher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim? So let's go back to the Ramban that we learned before. That the big miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the mega miracles, where God totally revealed to us who He is and gave us the 13 core principles of being a Jew. When you fuse yourself to that, you stay in that conscious headspace for the rest of your life, through the rest of the year. Through remembering the big miracles, it shows us that Hashem is in every single part of our life. So what is Leil HaSeder all about? What's the mitzvah? The mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim is actually to go into a state of consciousness on Seder night that you are leaving Mitzrayim, that you literally see the miracles in front of you. So the big tzaddikim would see wondrous things, and Eliyahu Novi's there. That you're literally leaving Mitzrayim. Mamish. Lirois esatzmai, laharois esatzmai. Everything we do is not just a reenactment, it's that you are there. And anybody who learns the Kabbalah books knows that on that night, the entire download comes into your consciousness of that experience for the entire year, and then you unpackage that light through the next 50 days until Shavuos. An analogy of this would be like the creation of a child, is that in that one moment, all the energy is given in the seed, and then the mother takes that seed and then unpackages over the next period of time. So on Leil HaSeder is like the total download of that experience, like literally being there, that people have wondrous revelations. Everybody knows Seder night is like a different thing. It hits different. Everybody knows that. That's why you want to be in the best possible place for Seder night, to really fuse in to this amazing ore. So says Rav Moshe Chaim, Sipa Yetzias Mitzrayim is seeing the great miracles of Mitzrayim, leaving Mitzrayim. Zecher of Yetzias Mitzrayim is all the little miracles in your life that you see all the time because you have a new Apple Vision Pro on. You're seeing it through Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, and therefore, throughout the day, you're always getting these constant mini-like boosts through Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim. Hey, that's the sequence. As you get Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, the entire download, and then throughout the year we have Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim. And this that we mention, leaving Mitzrayim in Kriyat Shema, because in Kriyat Shema there's a specific mitzvah to say it, to verbalize something. The mitzvah of Kriyat Shema includes knowing that God is one. Is that a constant mitzvah? Yeah, it's a constant mitzvah. We should always be thinking about that reality, that God is one, and that's unity consciousness. We'll get to that once we get into the Ikarim. But God's unity is wondrous unity. So you have to think about that all the time. But when you say Kriyat Shema, you have to actually verbalize that piece of consciousness. So you're taking something that you're supposed to be thinking about all the time, and now in Kriyat Shema, you take a consciousness that you should be walking around with, and you actually enunciate it. You say it out, the dibur. And this is what the Rambam says in Sefer HaMitzvahs. Listen to the words of the Rambam. You guys are getting a lot. We should just call this class the Rambam class. But that's the basics of being a Yid. Shemitzvah se'emuna beyichudoi nilmedis meloshon chazal al mitzvahs kriyat shema kadei sheyekabel alav ol malchus shamayim. That we should receive upon ourselves the yoke of God's mitzvahs, of the godly kingdom. Roit saloimar hahoida beyichud vehemanosai. To know and be aware of God's unification, unity, and the absolute solidness and essence of God. Kamoisha kosa behilchas kriyat shema. V'makdimin likrois parsha shema mipnei sheyesh ba yichud Hashem ve'avosai v'talmudoi shua ikar ha'godol she'akol tolui boi. So we're actually understanding the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema right now. The mitzvah of Kriyat Shema is to receive upon ourselves through saying something with our lips. What are we receiving upon ourselves? Unity consciousness, God consciousness, and within that, obviously, Yitzias Mitzrayim has to be there, because that was the source of where all the consciousness of what it means to be a Jew comes from. Okay, so what are we doing in Kriyat Shema? We're essentially taking, really, what you guys should be walking around with 24/7 is the consciousness of Shema. Should just be walking around with it. Mamish. And then a few times a day, you actually say it. What's really going on in here? It's like a revelation of what should be swimming around your brain all day. And if that's not what's swimming around in your brain all day, then you should use Shema as a way to train yourself. Oh, this is what should be swimming around in my brain all day, and now I'm going to spend this time actually enunciating it. Yeah, Yosef?
I remember you were sharing a story about what would happen to Rabbi Doper whenever he passed by Mezuzah.
Rabbi Dober is a great and holy person, and he's very sensitive to consciousness. And therefore, when he sees a mezuzah, and he knows he's about to pass through a gate of consciousness, he realizes that I'm supposed to think about the contents of what's going on in this mezuzah, which is unity consciousness, which is Shema. So when he sees the mezuzah, there's like a download of wherever I was a few minutes ago, and I could like up my game in God consciousness. Here's another opportunity. That's why we're kissing it all the time. It's not about the kiss per se. It's about the consciousness that I'm tying myself into this mezuzah, which has the root of our belief system inside of it.
That's why I thought you were going with the clock. If in every hour when the gong goes off, you actually put yourself back into the mindset of, Shema.
That'd be great. You could have things like that. You could have things like that. There's certain guys that they ask for little tips. So I said, they're working all day on the computer, whatever. I say, have it come up like a little pop-up on the side of your computer, just every so often. Unity consciousness. Talk to God. Shema Yisrael. Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yud Gimel Ikarim. Just like I was like so in my thing, and then, okay, let me be in my thing with that 35,000 foot view of it's all about God consciousness within that.
Hourly reminders?
Yeah, for sure. What do you think all these are? These are all pieces of testimony.
Every second, just like bing, 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 bing.
So that's the way that it is. But only twice a day does the Torah tell us to actually enunciate it. Because the Torah wants you to talk about a lot of things. But it should all be in the rubric of this level of consciousness. Okay? In summary, what do we see? We saw that Kriyat Shema is essentially using our mouth to say the consciousness that should be streaming around our mind at all times, which is the yichud of God, the unity of God, and included in that, says the Lechem Mishnah, shemitzvahs hayichud shana mechuyovim ba b'machshav b'kol rega, this that we're supposed to be thinking about all day, which is God consciousness, now we're actually saying it audibly through saying Kriyat Shema. That's what Kriyat Shema is. It's an enunciation and a proclamation of where my state of consciousness is. That's Shema. Some people Shema is like, what exactly is it? It's exactly the consciousness that you're supposed to have of unity, God, love, consciousness, spoken out. And King David says, Hemanti ki adaber. My belief in you is strengthened through the speech. When you speak about something, there's like a feedback mechanism that you start identifying with it more. That's why the Chinuch says one of the ways to strengthen emunah is speak about Hashem. Speak about God. Speak about things that are God, where God was in your life and you felt it. And it'll build that more within you and reveal more what's supposed to be going on at all times. We should be zoicha, my dear friends, to hear the grandfather clock and to be dancing and knowing that every single gong is just a step closer to Mashiach, should come mamish with the binyan beis hamikdash, peace for all and simcha and all to return home. B'ezrat Hashem, amen. Amen. Have a wonderful week, my friends.